Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. If any of you have CNN, you're probably seeing what I'm seeing. They're doing commercials for this show, The Killing of the White Teenager, and the way they're setting up their short commercial spots is that in the wake of all these killings of black teens, what are we to make of this death of the shooting of an unarmed white teenager? You know, it's just such a stupid question, and it's designed for an audience that is completely asleep, that have shut their minds off. And in all of these stories, they just load in the bullshit. In this case, they say this white teenager was part of a federal drug bust, which resulted in his death. And what was the federal drug bust over? 10 grams of marijuana. If you're not good with your measurements, there's 28 and a half grams in an ounce, 16 ounces in a pound. So we're talking about a very, very small fraction of a pound of marijuana with a market value of about $100. In other words, something that the federal government would never be involved in anywhere. It's just such a joke. Every detail about this story is a joke. Let's watch the mainstream coverage, then we'll break it all down. They say the victim is 19-year-old Zachary Hammond, a name sort of similar to mine, which almost makes me wonder. Here we go.
2015. 19-year-old Zachary Hammond is on a date with 23-year-old Tori Morton.
Okay, I'm not going to say anything, but that just looks like an unlikely date for a 19-year-old. Maybe I'm wrong.
The target of a drug sting. When they pull into a Hardee's parking lot, police.
Hardee's, right away. The location with the name gematria of 33 will break it down, but notice this took place at a 33 site, the number of the hoax.
Are waiting. According to the police report, Hammond, who was driving, attempted to strike an officer with his vehicle during the attempted arrest. He's shot twice. He dies at the scene.
It's a horrible situation. I mean, you get put in a predicament. Sometime you know when you sign up to be a police officer that potential is there during your career that you may have to use deadly force.
The Seneca police chief says his officer is a victim too.
A victim of attempted murder. That's what the police chief
I have
said.
a hard time believing it when my son is no longer here.
That he's the victim.
The Hammonds say police have not given them answers, so they went looking for their own. An independent autopsy they conducted shows their son was shot from behind and at close range. The family attorney adds the results show the car was stopped at the time of the shooting.
It's been very hard. Not only are we grieving that our son is gone, we don't know why it happened.
But they speak about it so calmly just days after the shooting on television.
Or what happened.
In an
We're just
orange
trying to
shirt.
find answers.
Lieutenant Mark Tiller, the officer involved in the shooting, is a 10-year veteran and has no history of getting in trouble. In a statement, Tiller's attorney put the blame on the 19-year-old Hammond. In order to stop the continuing threat
And again, a story of a police officer with no image of him in a police uniform. So common in these hoaxes.
to himself and the general public, 2 shots were fired by Lieutenant Tiller in quick succession. If not for Lieutenant Tiller's quick reflexes and his ability to push off of the car, Lieutenant Tiller would have easily been run over by Mr. Hammond. On Friday, Hammond's supporters held a vigil in hopes that attention to his killing will bring them answers from police. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division is investigating the shooting. They tell CNN they're still collecting evidence. We've reached out to them asking for dashcam video we know exists. They say it's part of their investigation and they will not be releasing it at this time.
Did you see how in that candlelight vigil they had a man up front with a St. Louis hat on, evoking the Michael Brown shooting in Ferguson, just miles outside of St. Louis? So the headline is, an unarmed white teen was shot dead by police. His family asks, where is the outrage? And right away I just see that outrage and I go, yep, where is the 33? Well, we're decoding it. So the victim is Zachary Hammond. Supposedly 19 years old, on his first date with a 23-year-old, picking up less than a half ounce of marijuana. Something that Americans do on the regular all throughout the nation, free of federal drug busts. But not for Zachary Hammond on his first date. Not only did he get busted by the feds, we're told, straight hoax-aliciousness, but he was shot and killed. Oh, Truth Seeker. The name Gematria in these characters is interesting. It happened in Seneca, South Carolina, which has Gematria of 86. Remember, triangle, pyramid, symbol, all words with 86 Gematria. Notice that the name Hammond has Gematria of 68, the reflection of 86. Caskets go 6 feet deep or 8 feet long. So often in the dead reporting in these hoaxes, they have name connections to 68, 86. Symbolic deaths is how I interpret it. And you see what CNN wants to do with this story. They want to put out there to say, see, it's not just unarmed black teens that get shot. Unarmed white teens get shot too at fast food joints who are high on weed, purchasing weed. Something that goes on all throughout this nation. And that's why they really do this, because they know the paranoia sets in people's minds who go through these scenarios all the time. A gullible weed smoker who's maybe a little too high and paranoid right now seeing this story, he might think, oh shoot, maybe the feds will be on me next time I'm at Hardee's or McDonald's or Wendy's or Jack in the Box or whatever fast food joint. That's why they do this. Stories that people can relate with, that can make them think that maybe they're next. Hardee's has Pythagorean Gematria of 33 with the S exception 42 and Simple English Gematria of 60. Remember, Conspiracy has Gematria of 60 as well as 51 and 123. This shooting happened on July 26th. The FBI is now involved. The FBI was established July 26th, 1908, a date with 33 numerology. 7/26/1908. Add it together digit for digit, 33. This was also Obama's 6th year, 6th month, 6th day in office. Did a lot of videos on all the things that happened July 26th. The death of Bobby Christina Brown. The revealing of the TV show I Am Kate. And the revealing of the Baphomet statue in Detroit. And I showed how all of these incidents were hooked up through the numbers 666 and 144. Also, Truth Seeker, we have had a lot of shootings in South Carolina recently. Whites targeting blacks. So if the media is seeing their hoaxes as a teeter-totter or a scale of lies, perhaps throwing on a white injustice shooting in their mind makes things more even down in South Carolina. But that's what they're trying to do. They're just trying to evoke all these other stories, add more race to it. What we need to do is just get rid of our police departments. The police are not here to protect us. They're here to uphold the bullshit. And as a result of their being, we're all worse off. If you're some gullible sheep who thinks the police are here to protect you, like so many sheep do think, you're mistaken. Let me close out by telling you my story, a different Zachary H., who I am. Last November, my home was burglarized. My neighbor who lives across the street had a direct role in it. I also think the other people who had the role in it were the police. Anyhow, after the robbery, I filed a police report, which was a complete mistake. I had to do it for insurance purposes, but I wish in hindsight I hadn't. I wish I hadn't called the police. I wish I'd just marched over to my neighbor's house and taken care of business, because then I would have got things done. By going through the police, by going through the insurance, I got almost as fucked over as the robbery itself. Because I did that, my neighbor went out and filed a restraining order against me, which an idiotic judge upheld. This was in November of last year. And I let that judge know that they just gave power to someone over me who's a real threat to me who had robbed my house. And they didn't seem to care a lick. The day after the restraining order, my neighbor went out and bought the exact same vehicle as me, make, model, color. I called the police department to remind them that they need to investigate the robbery. All the evidence was there that this person was a part of it. They didn't care. They didn't do anything. They said him buying the same vehicle as me, there's no evidence of anything. To me, it was also obvious. Robbing my house, filing a restraining order, getting the same vehicle, this is all part of attacking me, provoking me. The police didn't care at all. And we live in a small town where the police have time to do things about things. They just sit around parked on the sides of streets, gather at local fast food joints. The police have nothing to do here. Time went on. My neighbor and we didn't interact until March 3rd, 3-3 of all days, and he began the interaction. I was working in my yard. He drove by, honked his horn in the same vehicle that I own, because he bought the same vehicle as me. I looked over at him, and he flipped me off. Just kept his finger up, drove by, and I thought, what the hell? What's that all about? Next day, same thing. I called the police department, reminded them all this time had gone on. They still hadn't done anything about the criminal living across the street from me. Left a voicemail with the captain, no call back. March 7th, my neighbor did the exact same thing to me, except for he wasn't in his vehicle. He just came out of his house, started yelling across the street while I was weeding my yard. I told him to fuck off, go back in his house. What he did was he called the police. Police show up, asked me what's going on. I told them exactly what's going on, reminded them they hadn't done anything about the criminal across the street, and they arrested me, sent me to jail. So I tell you that story to remind you that the police in this nation are a fucking joke. They're part of the problem. They're the real criminals. We've given authority to the wrong people. Everyone who wears the a uniform of a police officer, just like these politicians, deserves to be drug in the street, shot, and executed. And if you disagree, so do you. Because there's no such thing as a good police. Yeah, there's nice, gullible, dumb police officers that hold doors at malls. I don't give a fuck. They're wearing the uniform of the traitor. Because even though this story is a joke, these are the laws that police officers uphold. That kid could have gone to jail for having 10 grams of marijuana. And think about what a joke that is, because taxpayers pay for people in jail. Since I've gone to jail, Truth Seeker, I've been nothing but bullshitted over by the system. When I finished all my court, I had to pay all these legal fees, pay for all my probation, everything else up at front. It costed me $3,000 and some dollars. A month after I did all this, I got a letter in the mail the day before my birthday of all days, saying that I had to drive to some distant place to learn about my new parole terms because my probation had been privatized, sold from the city that arrested me to a private company. When I got to that office, the private company let me know that I now have to pay an additional $60 a month for the time I'm on probation. You see what's going on here, Truth Seeker? Like I always say, these governments, these big private companies, it's an illusion. They're really all one and the same. What they figured out how to do is just screw people over one more way. So anyway, I'll close this story. I just want to remind you, the police are here to destroy us. They're not here to protect us. They're fucking losers. They're fucking cowards. Even all the actor police that participate in these hoaxes, think about what they're doing. Selling us all out. And feeling like they have the right because they have a gun and a badge and a uniform. The word police is 33, just like federal. Just like the date the FBI was established. Just like the number coded in all these hoaxes. All these stories mentioned within the reporting of this Zachary Hammond death. All these names, all 33 names. That's all they report in the news. Lie, lie, lie. You'll never hear a real story. All right, time to wake up. Until next time. Truth Seeker, I got too caught up in my story and forgot to finish decoding the incident. Notice that Zachary Hammond's family called for federal authorities to investigate. The name of the officer who did the killing is Mike Tiller. Mike short for Michael, a name commonly used in the hoaxes because of its gematria. But notice that Mike Tiller sums to 51 in Pythagorean gematria, like the number of conspiracy, a number related to Freemasons who are behind all of these hoaxes and who run the police departments and more. Mike Tiller in simple English gematria sums to 114. We're in the time of the 114th Congress. All of these gun shootings might very well be part of future planned legislation. Right now, there is a gun bill, H.R. 923, that is in the works, floating around, that's about stating who in this nation cannot have a gun. Something that's not on the federal books yet. And remember, Mike, short for Michael, that 33 gematria, like they like to code so often. This also comes on just shortly before the anniversary of the Michael Brown shooting, which is now passed. And again, they want the federal police involved, the ones established on the 33 date, July 26th, the anniversary of the Zachary Hammond killing now. All right. Until next.